Now that we know how to simplify expressions that are made up of numbers or made up of variables where we know what they're equal to, now we want to look at what happens if we have an expression that involves both numbers and letters and we're not told what those letters or those variables are equivalent to. There's two big things we're going to need to know for that. We're going to need to know about the distributive property and like terms. The first thing I'm going to talk about is like terms. Like terms are any terms that that contain the exact same variable part. A coefficient is going to be a number in front of a variable. A constant is going to be any number that's added or subtracted with an expression, that does not have a variable. Terms are going to be separated by plus or minus signs, and if we have like terms, we can combine them. In order to combine them, we will add the coefficients and keep the same variable. So we're going to look at a couple examples here, and all we're going to do is first determine if they are like terms, and if they are like terms, we're going to combine them. So remember, to be like terms, I have to have the exact same variable part. So if I'm looking at this first one, 3x and negative 7x, I notice they both have an x. Since they both have the exact same variable, I would say yes, they are like terms. And to combine them, I'm going to go ahead and add their coefficients. 3 plus negative 7 gives me negative 4, and keep the same variable part. If I'm looking at my second set, I have negative 7x squared and 18x. So I have an x squared for a variable on the first term and an x for a variable on the second term. Since x squared and x are not the exact same variable part, one of them has an exponent and the other one does not, these are not like terms. Looking at the third one, 14y and 3x. Well, 14 has a variable of y, 3 has a variable of x. These are not the same letters, therefore they are not the same variable, and they are not like terms. On the last one here, negative 2y cubed and 12y cubed, I notice that my variable part is a y cubed and a y cubed, so those are the same. So I can combine them by adding the coefficients, the negative 2 and the 12, which gives me 10, and keeping the exact same variable part. Oftentimes they will not be given to you in a list like this, but in an expression, where you have to determine where your like terms are and then go ahead and combine them. One thing we need to be comfortable with is we're oftentimes not going to get a nice answer. We're going to get what we call an expression, which is going to involve both numbers and letters. And if there is no equal sign, there's nothing more we can do. We cannot solve something with an equal sign. So looking here at this example, if I'm trying to simplify it, I see I have a 4y, and I don't have any other terms that contain just a y, that have the exact same variable part, which means I do not have any like terms, so I have to just keep the 4y a 4y. Looking at the next term, negative 3y squared. Well, I see I have another y squared with a 9. These are going to be like terms. I can combine them by adding their coefficients. Negative 3 plus 9 is a positive 6, and I keep the y squared. Finally, I'm left with a negative 17 and a positive 22. Putting those together, I get a positive 5 for my constant, and here is my expression. There is nothing more I can do with this. I do not have an equal sign, so it cannot be solved, and I do not have any more like terms. Looking at the next example, very similar to the first. So the first thing I notice is I have a 3x cubed, and I have no other x cubes. Therefore, I don't have any like terms, so it's going to remain an x cubed. The next term I have is a minus 2x. I see I do have another x. I have a plus 3x, and notice that I'm not, and it was the same thing in example 1, I'm not just circling or boxing or underlining the number and variable. The sign that it's in front belongs to the number, it belongs to that term. So this was a negative 3y squared over here. Same thing, this is a negative 2x and a positive 3x. So adding those coefficients, I get a positive 1x. Remember, it is not necessary to write that 1. I just could have said plus x. Moving along, I have a 7x squared, a positive 7x squared, because sign belongs to the number it's in front of, and a negative 18x squared. Sign belongs to the number it's in front of. Adding my coefficients, 7 and negative 18 gives me a negative 11 x squared. And then I also have this minus 15 that I'm going to drop down because it didn't have any like terms. So I have 3x cubed plus x minus 11x squared minus 15. And again, there's nothing more I can do. I don't have any other like terms, and I don't have an equal sign, so I cannot solve it. I know if you printed out the sheet that goes along with this, there's more to it on the bottom. Keep that because the next video is going to be on the distributive property portion of this. I just wanted to split it in 2 videos so neither of them got very long. So I'm going to stop this one here, and then I'll have you go ahead and watch the video on the distributive property.